Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing a very exciting video. We're going to do an April reading wrap up. How are we at the end of April? I have no clue. Sorry, I'm currently in my boyfriend's house, so there is a lot of noise going on around me at the moment and I have none of my books with me, so I'm going to just have to tell you about them. I can't show you any of the books I actually read. So we'll start off with how many books I did read, some stats and all that stuff. So I read 10 books in the month of April. I don't know how, because I feel like I read no books in the month of April, but somehow I read 10. I'm not going to complain. And I read 3,919 pages overall, and the average time to finish the books took me 4 days. I then read 100% fiction, and the average ratings I gave were 1 2-star, 1 2.5 star, 1 3-star, 1 3.75, and 4 4-stars. So that's the breakdown. We will get into the books now. So the first one is I Am Watching You by Teresa Driscoll. I didn't give this a rating on my Storygraph for some reason. I didn't give it a star rating, but I'm going with a 2-star because I did not enjoy the book. It was way too long. It's only 301 pages, which it felt like about 1,000. It was really long. There was too many storylines thrown into it. Did not enjoy, unfortunately. It was a book from Kindle Unlimited, but just wasn't for me. Wasn't for me, might be for you, but it's I Am Watching You by Teresa Driscoll. Number 2 was an ARC I received from NetGalley. I was lucky enough to receive it. I actually really enjoyed this book. It is Notes on Infinity by Austen Taylor, and it doesn't come out. I don't know when it comes out this year, but it doesn't come out until sometime this year. I'll try and find the date and insert it here in the corner if I can find it. So I'm just going to read you the review that I wrote, just to make it easier for me to explain about the book. It gave me very much tomorrow vibes. That's what I got when I first started. I put it off for so long because I thought through and through that it was a fantasy book for some reason. I was 100% certain I was going to read a fantasy, and because I'm reading Throne of Glass and I'm trying to read Fearless at the moment, I was like, this is not a book I can read. But went into it and it was completely different, and then it started to give me tomorrow vibes. So I wrote, every time I picked it up, I just couldn't put it down because the story was so compelling. The only critique what I would have is that there is a lot of science references, which made it confusing a lot of the time. I felt I was skipping bits just to get away from all the references. I found both our main characters, Jack and Zoe, to be endearing and fleshed out characters. I also liked our side characters. The ending wasn't what I expected, and I don't know if it's in a good way or a bad way. I'm unsure of how I feel about it, but would highly recommend reading when it releases, and I gave it a 4-star. I did enjoy it. I still don't know how I feel about the ending, to be honest. The next one is The Psychopath Next Door by Mark Edwards. I gave this a 2 stars, unfortunately. Again, it was 349 pages. It felt like it went on for ages, and it only came out this year. It was a new release. So I read it. I just kept thinking, when are we going to get to the point? When are we going to get to the point? Like, we got the point at the end, but the point didn't seem relevant. It didn't seem big enough a deal to cause what had happened in the story. It just was confusing. There was too many storylines added into it, and overall it just wasn't a favourite for me. It might be for you, but it wasn't for me personally. The next is a book I read for Maria, my friend, which is Where Rainbows End by Cecilia Ahern. So if you don't know, this book is the book that the movie Love, Rosie is based on, and I absolutely love Rosie. It's one of my favourite movies. I love Lily Collins and Sam Claflin in it. They're both brilliant. And when Maria said that to me, I was like, need to read this, and because it's a recommendation from my friend, I have to read it. So I read it on holidays. The one thing I will say about Cecilia Ahern's books, this was the first one I've read, but I've eyed up a couple of her books since, and they are very long. Very long. Like, this was 585 pages. I felt like there was, a lot of stuff added into it that we didn't really need. There was like, I know it's told you get their communication back and forth, like through emails, letters, and all that type of stuff. But then there's letters from like members of the family and things like that, and like the daughter that's in the book and stuff. It just felt like there was a lot going on. Like, whereas in the movie, it's a lot more straightforward. So in this instant, I do still prefer the movie to the book. I'm very sorry, Maria, because I know Maria loves this book very much. I still gave it a 4 stars. I still really enjoyed my time with it. But I think as I was reading it, I kept being like, but that didn't happen in Love, Rosie. And that didn't happen in Love, Rosie. So I think it was one of the cases where if I'd read it first, I think I would have rated it higher, even though 4 stars is an amazing rating. But it could have been possibly the 5 stars if it just had been possibly a little shorter, and if I had read it before watching the movie. Because I've watched Love, Rosie multiple times. I could nearly recite the whole story because I love that movie so much. Next was A Fate Forged in Fire. It is the first in the Bonded to Beasts series by Hazel McBride. I gave this a 3.75 rating. It is out now as far as I know. If not, again, we'll insert the date that it's out, but I know it does release in 2025 because I did get it as an ARC from NetGalley. So I'll just read you my review because I always post longer reviews for books for NetGalley. So this is the first book in the Bonded to Beasts series. Overall, I feel it was a good introduction to a series, but there were parts that definitely could have been developed further. For our first book in the series, it felt very long and dragged out. The relationship between the two characters felt very forced, and I wasn't necessarily rooting for them as a couple. The amount of name/cultural language which was used made it confusing to follow at times, as there wasn't much context or world building around it. It just felt like we were thrown in and expected to know what kind of all of it meant. It definitely picked up in the second half and became more fast paced, and I definitely was not expecting the ending. But I would be excited to pick up the second book in the series to see how it develops overall. But there definitely was parts where I was like, I'm so confused, and I felt stupid because it was a lot of cultural stuff. So that's the only thing I will say going into it. Is it's a long book. It's 400 pages on a Kindle, so it's quite long. For an introduction to a fantasy series, I do think it is quite long for building a world, I'm not going to lie. And I felt like there was a lot of information thrown at us that we didn't really need, and it just could have been a bit shorter, that's all. But I would be intrigued to see where the rest of the series goes. The next was a personal favourite, Sunlight by Devney Perry. I finally read it, and I am happy to say I way preferred it to the first book in the series. I way preferred the story of, I can't remember their names. I don't know why I can't remember their names. I need to find this. Wait now. I know Jax is the boy. I nearly said fella, very Irish of me. Jax is the boy. And I'm trying to figure out what... Sasha is her name. Didn't have it there, but Sasha is her name. And I loved their relationship. The one thing I will say is it felt very insta-lovey. It felt very insta-lovey to me. And that's one thing I don't like, when the characters, had a scheduled interruption. So, it wasn't scheduled, sorry. I don't know why you said scheduled. But, back to Sunlight. Was very insta-lovey to me, and that's just something I don't personally love. I like the characters to have like an emotional connection before we get to like the sexual part. I feel like when they build the emotional connection, it just makes it better. But overall it was brilliant. It's accidental pregnancy, which isn't a spoiler because it's on the back of the book. There's an accidental pregnancy, and the way Devney Perry did it was actually brilliant. Normally I don't like accidental pregnancy as a trope, but the way it was handled and the way it happened felt like realistic for the story. I hate when it's just kind of thrown in as a trope, and in this book it definitely felt like I can see the natural progression of how that happened, which is why I really, really enjoyed it. I need the next book Devaney Perry, please get on to me because I want the next book. I need it. I can't remember who the next book is about. I remember I said it in my 24-hour readathon who I'm speculating that the next couple is, but I can't remember their names. It's the girl in the story who is with her husband and leaves him, and I don't know. Anyway, there's this couple. You can just tell that they're meant to be together, right? Emery and something else. But I need their story right now. Right now. I know you're releasing a fantasy at the moment, but if you could please release the third book in that series, I'd be so happy. But anyway, we'll carry on. Next is another arc that I received. It's called The Showwoman by Emma Cowing. This was also another NetGalley arc, so I rated it 3 stars. So I'm going to just read it again for you. I enjoyed our characters in the story and they felt like real people. It just felt very dragged out. Like a lot of the time there was dialogue that wasn't necessary and storylines that felt very overcomplicated. I just don't understand what the ending meant and how we came to that ending. Overall, I did really enjoy the elements of an all-female circus, the way our characters act and their backgrounds, but the length of this book really brought the rating down. It was 336 pages, which as it stands, it's not that long, but it felt long. And I was really excited going into it. The cover is beautiful. It really drew, caught my attention, which is why I requested it. But the ending, if you've read it, you know what the ending is. I'm obviously not going to say it because it's a spoiler. But what was it? What was that like? There was no need for that ending, and it just made no sense to the story. So that's what took the rating down for me. Now, I still enjoyed my time with it as well. Like, I did enjoy our characters and I felt like you did get to know them very well. But overall, it didn't feel a very fleshed out story. The characters felt fleshed out, but the story didn't match up to that. So that's all I'll say on that one. Next, I read Reckless by Lauren Roberts. You might be thinking, Jordyn, you only read Reckless in April and Fearless came out in April. I know. The day Fearless came out, I started reading Reckless because I'm the type of person, I hold on to books until the bitter end. As in, like, I will not read them until I absolutely have to. And it's not in a bad way. It's because I don't want to be left waiting for the next book. So, like, I always use Emily Henry as an example because she's one that I'll always do it with. So I haven't read Funny Story yet. And the reason I haven't read Funny Story yet is because I was waiting for Great Big Beautiful Life to come out. So Great Big Beautiful Life has now come out. So now in the next week or two, I would read Funny Story and then we'll probably keep Great Big Beautiful Life till next April when Emily Henry probably will release a book. So with Reckless, that's why I held off on reading it because I knew we had Fearless coming on the 9th of April. So I know a lot of people didn't enjoy Reckless. They felt like it was a filler book and they didn't. I really enjoyed it, guys. Am I like in the minority or something? Because I gave it 4 stars. I had a great time. I loved being in the world. It didn't feel filler to me at all, personally. Like, I felt like it was necessary. I'm not going to lie. I don't know. I'm currently 100 pages into Fearless and I'm actually going to see Lauren Roberts because she's doing an event in Dublin on Friday. It's Wednesday when I'm recording this. So in 2 days' time, I will be in the same room as our Queen Lauren Roberts. So I have 2 days to finish Fearless. But it's fine because where she's coming to Dublin, I'm in Cork. So Dublin is a 3-hour journey. So I have loads of time. So it'll be fresh in my mind the minute I get there, guys. I'm so excited. But yes, Reckless, 4 stars, absolutely loved. I know a lot of people didn't like it. I can see why people didn't like it. But I personally had the time of my life. Next, this is a book I read during my 24-hour readathon. It was Leather and Lark by Bryn Weaver. I have settled on a 2.5 stars. But upon reflection now, because I read it like a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, I think it's a 2-star and I think that's quite generous. I'm not going to like the 2.5 was generous. The 2 is the real rating because I didn't have a good time at all. I cannot pick out one aspect really of the book that I enjoyed. I did enjoy Butcher and Blackbird. I gave it was like 3.5 stars or something like that. I did enjoy it. I was excited for Leather and Lark. I thought we get like snippets of the characters in Butcher and Blackbird. So I was really excited for their story. And all he did was call her Duchess for 390 pages. So no, I did not have a good time, unfortunately. I hope Scythe and Sparrow will be different. I am wanting to give that one a chance, because I know which is it the third brother of them is about, and I've liked the snippets we've had of him, but I also love the snippets we had of Lachlan from Leather and Lark, and I was sorely disappointed. I am so sorry, Bryn Reaver. It just wasn't for me. But I will be reading Scythe and Sparrow, because again, I just want to give it a fair chance. I want to see. Just because I didn't like that book in the series doesn't mean I won't like the third book. So we're going to give the third book a chance at some point. I don't know when. I need a bit of separation from it since I'm scared. The word Duchess has scared me now because of it. And then last, but certainly not least, is Training the Heart by Paisley Hope. That's the second book in the Silver Pine series. I think I kind of did myself a disservice with this book. I think I went into it with too high an expectation. I expected this book to be like Cade and Willa from Heartless. That's what I expected, because is his name Wade? Wade is an older man in the book. He's not significantly older, but he is older. And the girl, why can't I remember her name? Was it Ivy? I think it was Ivy. Had that like fiery energy about her, and I think I put too high an expectation on it, and that's my fault. I shouldn't have done that. The one thing I will say about Paisley Hope's books, and I don't know, is it me getting old or what, but the book is very, very spicy. I mean, like 2-3 chapters in a row of spice that is carrying on through the chapters. Like, that's too much to me personally. And when the book is 416 pages and there's at least 3 chapters just in a row of them just having sex, it is quite boring. I will not lie. So I've said 4 stars, but that's because Goodreads doesn't give you the opportunity to put point whatever. Because I forgot to rate it on my story graph for some reason, so I had to go to look at my Goodreads there for the rating. So I gave it 3.75 stars because I definitely enjoyed it a lot more than the first one. I definitely enjoyed Wade and Ivy's story compared to Cece and Nash. Now, I'm currently reading Riding the High. And guys, oh my god. This is the brother I've been waiting for. This is the one I should have just waited for. I love him so much. Cole, he's amazing. And he's a single dad. I am literally like 20% into it, but it is so good. The third one is so good. I'm hoping it'll be a 4 or a 5 star, to be honest. And then, bonus, I didn't realise I actually finished an audiobook and another book that I couldn't put on my story graph, so it wasn't there. So I actually read 12 books altogether. But I didn't read. I read 11 and listened to 1. So I finally finished Never Enough by Pete Wicks. I didn't give it a rating because I just personally don't feel like it is fair to rate people's lives when they're telling a very, very vulnerable story about things that have happened to them in their childhood into adulthood, and they're being very raw and real. I just think it's a bit insensitive to be rating someone's life. So I've decided not to rate memoirs and autobiographies anymore. When I first started reading, I would have rated them, which upon reflection I shouldn't have been. But I saw a couple of booktubers like Des and Sarah and Rachel, and all of them talk about how they don't rate autobiographies and memoirs, and then I was like, oh my god, I forgot you can just not rate something. So at the time I felt like I had to all the time. But now, obviously, as I have matured, I have realised that you do not need to do that. So I do not rate autobiographies and memoirs anymore. But I love Pete Wicks. I listen to Staying Relevant every week. I love Pete and Sam. And that's why, and listening to Pete Wicks' voice for like 7-8 hours. What could be better than that? Like, Pete Wicks has a great voice for audiobooks. I think he actually had the highest selling audiobook. I don't know of what, like in terms of what, but a highest selling audiobook of the year or something, or I can't remember what, but he sold a lot of audiobooks because his voice is just so comforting and you can just listen and like, oh, he's just so easy to listen to. Love Pete Wicks. Love you, Pete Wicks, if you're watching this. I know you're probably not, but invite me to the plaque party, please, actually, when you hit 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. I would like an invite to this plaque party, please. But anyway, and then we'll get to the very last book, which was also a memoir / autobiography. I got it as an ARC from NetGalley. So it's called Memoirs of a Child Holocaust Survivor Living Without Hatred by A.M. Fox. So for you guys who do not know, I have a history degree. So history is very, very important to me. And particularly World War II. I was always interested in World War II as a child and all the way up into school and college. So when I saw this on NetGalley, I was like, you know what? I haven't read a non-fiction kind of war or history book in a while, so I'll request this and see if I get it, and lucky enough I did. So I'll just read the review. I said I honestly don't know how I feel about rating memoirs / autobiographies, as I said, as it feels wrong to rate someone's life experience. I found it beautiful that the story was told in collaboration with his wife before he passed. So he told the story to his wife and they wrote it together, and they didn't publish it, and then he passed away and they published it after he passed, which I just think is beautiful. I think that's a lovely not memento, but that's it's something permanent to always remember of him, which I think is very nice. I said obviously the story is tragic and upsetting to read about, but I felt it was done in a good way. The only critique I would have is there's a lot of names given to us, which confused me a lot, and particularly foreign names, which I found quite hard to understand. Like, they do try their best at the start to kind of break down the family, but it still is quite hard to follow personally. So I found that it confused me, but I wish we solely focused on just his story and his main family, like his immediate family story, rather than talking about, let's say, uncles or cousins or, you know, things like that. But overall, it was a beautiful memoir. I'm not going to rate it. I don't really want to harp on it too much, because I feel like, look, it's about this person's life and they lived an amazing life after the war and they survived the war. So, like, it's amazing that their story is able to be told now, and that will be published forever. So you'll be able to look at someone's real story and real experience of living through the Holocaust. So they are all the books I have read in April. I did a lot of reading in April that I don't remember. I think it was because I was off work, I had surgery, all that stuff. So I think I just kind of forgot that I was reading a lot of the time. I don't know. It's a weird one, but I read a lot more when I went into my story graph before I started setting up to record. I thought it was going to be like a 7-minute video because I'd have no books to talk about, but we're nearly at half an hour of me yapping away at the camera now. So I did some reading, I did some talking. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and please let me know what books you read in April. If you've read any of the books that I read, let me know what you thought about them, and I shall see you guys in the May wrap up.